Well, good morning, everybody. Great to be with you as always for Warchant GameDay. He's Tom Lang. I'm Jeff Cameron. You're here. Ben also helping produce the show today. Good to be with you as always. We like to kick off the show by mentioning that the pregame show is brought to you by our friends at Hotel Indigo, Tallahassee, College Town. Whether you're a frequent guest, a business hosting your event, or stopping by the restaurant, bar, and rooftop before an FSU home game, Hotel Indigo Tallahassee wants to thank you for your continued support and being part of the family. If you want to host your next event with the best view of Doak Campbell and all of the city, all you got to do is call Jay Green, 850-755-9011. Hotel Indigo Tallahassee, welcome to the neighborhood. It's game day. It's a beautiful day in Tallahassee. For those of you watching outside the area, maybe not attending today's game, we'll have to see about attendance today. I will tell you that you couldn't have a better day for football. You could not have a better day for football. So if you are in town and you're thinking about stopping by Hotel Indigo, it would be a good day. Every game is a good day to do it. But, man, today, Tom, this is the way you draw it up when you think about football in the fall, when you're longing in the offseason for games. This is the day you dream of right here.
Yeah, and some years, frankly, we just don't get it. So I'm thankful that, you might get a very beautiful setting back-to-back weeks. And it's funny to watch how the patrons at Hotel Indigo on the 7th floor operate as the season goes. It tells you the story of how livable it is outside, because when the season begins, it's brutal. Usually we have a night kick early in the year, which means the sun sets kind of right in your face, but it's great for a photo op of you and Doak. But a lot of people will meander inside to the beautiful air-conditioned setting that Hotel Indigo provides. Today, we're going to meet beginning at 11 a.m., just under 2 hours from now, on the 7th floor of Hotel Indigo. With no games on TV yet, I think we're all going to be sitting outside, buddy, and just chilling in the breeze. They do have heating. Usually we say they have air conditioning, but they have heating as well. So if you're a little chilly and you want to come in from the cool air, get yourself a hot register sausage and a cold beverage. That's what we'll have for you over at Hotel Indigo. But as we've said, I think on the show this week several times, it's been the best part of the season. We're trying to double our win total, and we're about at Thanksgiving. So that's kind of ridiculous. But the best part of the season has been the pre-games that we've had at Hotel Indigo. Just awesome crowds, people who they just want to know why. Why are we here? And there are no easy answers, but this season is almost over, and we're going to start to get some answers about where we're going.
Nobody could have guessed that we'd be talking this morning documenting a one-win team, but that's exactly what we're doing. It makes putting into context this game very difficult. It would be a fool's errand to sit down and talk about the X's and O's of this football game and how Florida State has to execute this plan or that plan. Honestly, if you look at the rosters, and again, the games, they have to be played, so rosters be damned. But if you look at the two rosters, Florida State should win this game and not have to try that hard, which might be a good thing because they haven't tried very hard. So you're going to have to see if Florida State shows up, is competitive, and cares, because if they are, they'll win the game going away. That's the bottom line. This is a terrible, terrible Charleston Southern team at a lower level. So it's not just that, I know a lot of the fan base is like, well, Jeff, we're terrible. We are. Relative to where we play, we are. But you can line up here and hand the ball off and have great success. Literally, your imagination could be that you're in the I formation handing the ball off to a running back. That's kind of what you have to do to win this game. You do, on the other side, though, have to want to be assignment sound and tackle because they run the option. And if you're not where you're supposed to be, even terrible teams at a lower level can gash you for a lot of yards. So I think if you were looking for an angle, you'd say that's the one. Does the defense care to be there? Do they play fast? And are they assignment sound? If the answer is yes to that, then you're really going to win this game going away. But that is a big if, and we'll see.
Yeah, look, we're trying to find out how deep this hole goes that Florida State's in. But offensively for the Buccaneers, they're bottom 5 in FCS. So these two teams are mirror images of each other at just different levels. So we're the worst in the heavyweight class. They're the worst in the middleweight class. And let's see, relative to each class, what that actually means. Looking forward to seeing more points today. If we touch 20 points in the United States of America on this Saturday, it might be the only time you see it this calendar year. So
Oh, yeah.
cherish it. Absolutely cherish it.
It's interesting. You're hearing a lot of whispers. This is the time of year right now, and it's especially true with Florida State. But change is in the air for a lot of programs, and that is no more true anywhere else than here. It is certainly is what is on everybody's mind. But Tom, last night talking to some folks close to the program, I think this was a come to Jesus week for some players in this coaching staff as well. I think Mike might have had the exit conversations that you expect to have at the end of the year. Sounds an awful lot like some of them may have already happened. And what I'm interested to see today, and I do not know the answer to this, but who's there? Who is still on this team? I think, like during warmups when we cut to the stadium and we get our information from Ira and Corey and Aslan and those that are there on the ground and able to tell us who's warming up. Yeah, who's warming up? Because I'm really curious to see who's still a member of this football team. There's a chance that there's some guys who have maybe made some decisions for themselves. You wouldn't be shocked by that given this season. And if that's the case, maybe from what I'm hearing, Mike has said, okay, well, it's been a pleasure. Have a good day.
Well, I do find that fascinating. We've got, wonderful specials at warchant.com, like $1 for 7 days of access plus 50% off an annual membership. Usually when I discuss in some of the videos that we do, aside from the live shows, that particular special, we're talking about the hook being new coaches, transfer portal, recruiting class that's in shambles, but what can they salvage? And the month of December, you're talking about how December is going to be just this critical transformational month for the team. But if you want access early to hear from the press box, who the hell's there? You can also sign up right now. It's $1 for 7 days. It's going to be a very busy 7 days for Florida State on all fronts. But that's not one of the things that I considered in the priority list. Now that you say that aloud, my interest is piqued. I'll be at Hotel Indigo logging in on my phone before we leave just around 1 o'clock, maybe a couple minutes after 1 o'clock, to see who took rushes, as they say in hockey. Who took those line rushes? What's the O-line look like? What's the D-line look like? Who are your projected starters based upon warmups? If it's new names, I don't think that's all that bad. At this point, change isn't always good, but I don't know how change isn't going to be good for Florida State when you only have one win with 2 games to go.
Yeah, and I think that it's an interesting, if it happened, if in fact some of these rumors that we're hearing are true, that some people have decided that Florida State's not the place they want to continue their career, that they're going to be moving on. We've speculated about this a lot. Everybody has. I mean, when you're going through this kind of disaster of a season, change is inevitable. You also know that kids are going to become disgruntled, and I understand that too. I mean, this is not what they signed up for. I don't think any of those kids that chose to come to Florida State ever thought that they would be mired in the midst of a 1-9 season and be the laughing stock of Power 4 conference football. I don't think any of them expected that. Some of that is on their shoulders, but some of that is on this coaching staff and Mike Norvell too. Of course it is. So I'm not going to hold a grudge necessarily. If a kid's given effort the entire time he's been here, if that's the case and they want to leave, I understand it. And that's probably par for the course. If they're part of the problem, I'll say good riddance, just like everybody else will. But I wouldn't be surprised if there are a few guys that have decided to shut it down. And so when I heard that was a buzz early in the week that kind of stuff was going on behind the scenes. Heard some more of it last night. Really good to see everybody that came out to the happy hour at Corner Pocket last night. There were a lot of Noles that actually kind of trickled in as the night went on, and we were watching the unfortunate turn of events for Florida State soccer as they fell in penalty kicks, which is a ridiculous way to solve a game's ending. But anyhow, that's what happened. Florida State loses that game to Vanderbilt, but did win the basketball game. In the midst of all of it, we had an opportunity to talk to a lot of folks, and so they were hearing that too. A few people that came in that are tied to the program. I thought that was interesting. So I wouldn't be surprised. Everything is expedited, Tom. That's really been the talking point all along because of how compressed the college football recruiting cycle is now, and the decisions that have to be made and how quickly they have to be made. It is not the old system. It is on you in a hurry. Florida State has this game, and they have the Florida game. And by the end of those 2 games, they have to know who their coaches are going to be and who the players are that they're going after to bring in and have to sign. It's a whirlwind, to say the least. So if they've started the process a little early, and some bigger names, and we don't know that. We'll see. I'll be watching intently again here this afternoon. We'll see who's dressed and who's not. I wouldn't be surprised.
Nobody's happy at 1-9 anywhere. At best, what you have with a player, like if you're just going up and down the roster of 85, I don't think anybody's smiling and whistling on their way into the football facility at 1-9. So everybody is not happy, but there's a big difference between a confidence issue and a culture issue. And Correct. Each player individually is going to have some type of issue when you finish a season at 2-10, 1-11, whatever it's going to be for Florida State. Okay. So this is what Mike Norvell needs to do now, because you're right. Transfers can arrive as soon as next month. You can get some of these kids who are early enrollees who, God love them, stick with Florida State on campus next month. Some of those kids, recruiting-wise, are going to be visiting campus in the next week or two. Again, some of these visits are scheduled. Signing day is 2 Wednesdays away, but some of these visits, the kids come in the final weekend before signing day, checking with the coaching staff, perhaps meeting new coaches, all that kind of stuff, checking boxes. You cannot have them arrive in a place that is cancerous. You can have them arrive in a place that is downtrodden and mad and perhaps in football despair, but they cannot be in a toxic environment, because it's contagious. And so that's where Mike Norvell is right if he's making those aggressive moves to do so now. Frankly, I would have done it as early as possible, because there was a bit of a charade going on here the last few weeks in terms of effort. And we called it out early. I called it out after the Miami game, which is a sacred game, and it wasn't treated as such. I'm glad some of these steps are being taken, because what's the difference? What have you brought to me this year? If you feel entitled, no, man, that cannot stand. Now, this is where I agree with you. Everybody's so quick to jump on that entitlement word and to blame a player. It takes a lot to break somebody. And unfortunately, we have been piling on this year of those outside factors and internal factors that allow somebody to be broken. It started in a way with a snub last year. You needed to get off to a good start this season. You didn't. All your goals were off the table within 2 games. So that all contributes. But if it happens and if you give in, that's got to be it. You can maybe repair your football career somewhere else, but it cannot be here, because the next guys that are coming in have to have a fresh start. And that's what we're all hoping for here very soon.
Nothing's going to be solved this afternoon in this game, but you'd really like to see a team take care of its business for the first time at home this year outside of the Cal game. You'd really like to see a team that plays hard. I've been waiting on that for some time, just a team that plays hard. You fired your offensive coordinator. You fired your defensive coordinator. You fired your wide receiver coach. I don't know that those changes will be revelatory as we watch out here today, but it has a chance to, because I think you can simplify things in a game like this, play the players that want to be out there, not feel obliged to play upperclassmen just because they've been here. You can play anybody who's shown the effort and practice and cares. We're blowing this thing up. And play the guys that want to be here and tell them to play fast. A really simple system. Randy's always run a really simple system, always. And so he gets his opportunity here to run this simple system again, not have guys stumbling around in the dark trying to play zone because they can't. So we can just go ahead and be who we are today and make sure they play fast. That was the mantra this week. We heard it from the coaches. Just get some guys out there that want to play fast and play hard. And it'll be refreshing if it happens. It's a big if, but that's something you can look for today. It's frustrating as a fan to watch this play out, because the bigger change is the things that we're going to be looking for. We really can't get around to see until spring football. We're not going to. Is the culture better? Does Mike have a better handle on things? What kinds of players does he have? Which coaches has he brought in? None of these are going to be answered until the season's over. So for the most part, it's a little frustrating to kind of have to play out the charade of these last 2 games.
Yes, well, and again, this is the hurry up and wait nature of it. You want to go to market with openings on your staff to signal. Yeah, you want to signal to your own fan base, but you got to signal to the coaching market that, hey, you've got a nice landing spot, big opportunity at Florida State. If you turn around what Florida State was awful at in 2024, and in 2025 they look competent, your star is on the rise as a coordinator or as a position coach. So there's a bit of a hurry up and wait element when it comes to naming the coach. Warchant did some reporting this week. We did some reporting. It's Gene and Ira's story about Brennan Marion is essentially the leading candidate as long as he doesn't get a head coaching job somewhere else. You probably can expect him here. But usually when you have these coaching changes, historically in our sport, it's with one game to go. And so once the game concludes and the 60 minutes are played, then it's, all right, now we'll get a university release within 24 hours on a Sunday morning, sometimes a Saturday night. You know who's coming in. Those breaking news reports come in from the guys who are in that industry, and then the university confirms it the next day. But this is game 11 of 12. So you do have to wait a little bit longer to get the information on the change that we're all desiring. And in some cases, you might have to wait still even more for a position coach, maybe a coordinator, if they are participating in a conference championship game. Dare I say, if maybe one of those coaches is participating in a college football playoff game. So we'll see how it all shakes out over the next few weeks, but we are getting ever closer to the change that we're looking for. I agree with you. I'm not looking today for efficiency on first down, success rate defensively on 3rd and long. Do we get off the field? I will be caring about that in the moment, but we're all going to be thinking every commercial break, every injury timeout, every replay break you get today about the future of Florida State's program, not, oh my God, did he catch that ball? We're thinking about the big picture here. That's what 1-9 does to you.
Yeah, I do want to see the reps for the quarterbacks today, though. I am curious to see if those two young men, are still locked in. Do we get any improvement from them? That it's been obviously not their fault, given the fact that this offensive line is embarrassment to offensive lines everywhere. But they have had very little opportunity to succeed. Luke got to a place where all he saw was the rush. That was unfortunate. I witnessed that firsthand up there at Notre Dame. I think Luke is the more talented of the two, but right now he's just seeing the rush because he keeps getting killed. So I am kind of curious to see that, how many of the quarterbacks play. We get 3 quarterbacks out there today. We might. This is there's some guys that you wonder, are they going to be here next year? Are they going to be part of the solution? And when you start talking about solutions, you're always going to start, obviously, the coaching staff, but, from a player standpoint, you start a quarterback. So which of these two are either one going to be here next year? We still don't know the answer to that, too. This is, I would think if you were moving on, if you were not going to be here next season, if you were planning on transferring, would you play these games, Tom? I mean, it's a different era of football. This is stuff we have to ask. I hate that we have to ask these questions, but if you're planning on leaving and playing your football somewhere else next year, you're that kind of upset and disgruntled, understandably. If that's the case, would you go out there and play right now if you had a landing spot already? I don't know that you would.
I know in Roydell Williams' case, Mike Norvell has talked 2 times this week about him having 1 game left. So clearly in Roydell's situation, you're looking at the numbers of participation. To his credit, Kromenhawk has said, I don't care about my red shirt when he was asked about it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I would expect he would participate unless things have changed behind the scenes and he thought he was going to be a part of Florida State. Now he's wondering and second guessing. Yes, personnel decisions today, guys that rotated out participation charts. That's one of the things they release in the full box score that you can find from the full game book of who participated. You can also get the snap count reports. We'll provide, PFF information on the site tomorrow to that end. But it'll be an interesting subplot. I mean, the hard part here is you're preparing for an opponent that is the mirror image of you, and they're awful in the FCS. But Mike Norvell, his day-to-day operation, while he's trying to prep for Game 11, man, what kind of phone calls is he taking? Who's walking in and out of his office every day? What text chains is he a part of? So much of the communication that's going on behind the scenes for the program right now in Mike's day-to-day operation has nothing to do with the opponent before Florida State.
Of course, yeah.
And it is all of these little things that you're talking about, but those take up minutes and hours. When a player or a player's parent wants to talk to you about the future of the program, hey, my son's at 4 games. What are we doing here? Is he a part of your future? We're willing to hang around, but I kind of need to know what the plan is. Like, those phone calls have to get scheduled because you do need to re-recruit your roster every year. And dare I say, this is one of those times when it's totally acceptable that you have to re-recruit your roster from a player standpoint. We say that, they're holding their own rosters and their coaches hostage to, in a sense, this day in college football, this day and age. When you're 1-9, you kind of should be asking tough questions. It's not about, oh, I'm good on a good team, but can I get paid more? Is this going to be the best thing for me in my future? Because this has been a tire fire in 2024.
I have struggled to find a way to talk about in an engaging fashion the games that are left on the plate here because of what you're describing. So much of what we want to talk about with Florida State right now has to do with rectifying a god-awful situation. A god-awful situation that's been clearly defined already. So there's, it's not like you're wondering anything. We know this is on fire. And he is going about the business of putting out that fire. Now, there's an entire debate to be had within just that conversation as to whether or not he's the guy to do it. You could start right there. You could start with the fact that, probably half this fan base, if not more, would like to see Mike Norvell fired right now. And earlier this year, I said, I understand that. I mean, things got so bad and spiraled so bad, I openly wondered, could he save his job? Like in the beginning when they were losing games, Tom, you're just kind of thinking, well, it's going to be a bad year. They're not going to live up to the hopes of the preseason predictions. Then it got to be like, oh, this is a bigger problem than we realized. And then it became, oh my God, this is the worst I've ever covered or seen. This is how this thing progressed over the course of the year. And we all knew, that firings were going to occur. But we began to wonder that buyout be damned, maybe Mike's got to go. Wow. So if you're having that conversation, what do you care about, this game or the Florida game even? It's brutal. It's a brutal place to find yourself in.
Well, you want to see who wants to stick around. You want to see who those candidates are going to be, that if, let's just say this thing does get flipped and it turns into one of the great comeback stories in the history of college football, who are the players that you're going to love 2 years from now for that effort that they put in? That's where it starts today. You're looking to see who's in it. Yeah. Who cares? Who gives a damn? But, I mean, we can chuckle about it now. Mike had a sense in the second quarter at a 7-0 score of the BC game of how bad it was. Yeah, we were only learning, but this look, I mean, my man, you make a stop, it's only going to be 10-0. But that look is, oh my God, we got nothing. We got absolutely nothing. And we were only 0-1. You rally, you win that football game, you could still go play in Charlotte. You could still go play for an ACC championship. In that moment, all is not lost to the outside, but it looked like in that moment, it's 7-0 in the second quarter of game 2. Mike Norvell thought all is lost. I totally miscalculated this situation.
You could see it. I mean, when you watch that video, and I'm watching it now, you can watch it on a loop, and this has been captured many times and posted across the interwebs, and we've all watched it. I remember calling you the next day after this game going, did you? And you're like, yes, of course. I saw the look. I saw the shot. Yeah, that's the shot heard around the world. Everybody saw that snapshot, that video image, and went, oh, he just saw a ghost. The ghost of the program he once coached. It was dead. Buddy, he saw in the moment it was dead.
Do you know what that look is exactly the same as? I know you do, but it's Virginia Tech, Florida State, Willie Taggart's first post-game press conference.
The post-game press conference,
That's the same look. It's the same one. And what's wild about it is,
I can't believe that Florida State fans, all of us, have had to endure that look more than once in recent times. Oh. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Jimbo had that look once or twice down the stretch, too.
Well, when they quit on him and he stopped recruiting, he had already checked out to go take the Texas A&M job. Yeah, there was a couple of looks there. Yeah.
Coach, why are you swaying in your office? Huh? No, I'm not swaying.
And none of it made any sense. Yeah, there was all kinds of weird stuff going on there. Like, oh, man. But if you think about it, I mean, this is a piling on effect of what's happened this year. You're at a loss, and it is impossible to take serious the games, and that's what I hate. That's what it's done. It's rendered them sort of a moot point, an afterthought to the bigger picture. And I don't want to come in here when we're doing these pregame shows and pacify people by saying, hey, well, let's talk about the Charleston Southern offense. No, you don't care. Neither do I.
Yeah.
Talk about the program that's on fire that we love.
Right.
And whether or not some significant changes are going to happen, and will it be enough to get this turned around, quickly. This is you can. I don't know what everybody's expectations are going to be going into next season. It's impossible to kind of have any right now. We don't know who the coaches are going to be, and we don't know who's playing. So it's hard to say anything about what's going to happen next year.
Yeah, look, I mean, there is an outlet. It comes from the university if you want state-sponsored media and only the positives and just, weird sounding stuff like acknowledge it. They won't acknowledge it. They can't. I'm not even hating on the talent because there are a lot of friends that we have that are over there, but that's their mandate. They can't be coming on talking during a pregame show on the Seminole Network and be like, well, here we go, another terrible Saturday. Maybe let's see if we can double our win total. I mean, they don't have Hawk Harrelson in the booth. Never lose your nerve. We appreciate the contribution. He says, Earl Little plays hard. Hope to see Trevor Jackson play quarterback. Earl Little does play hard. And I don't know that he understands, any percent of what he needs to at safety because he just moved there. But you know what it looks like when people play fast. You know what it looks like when people play inspired. And when Earl Little finally started to do that, the Miami game was a great example. And he looks unlike anybody else who's playing safety for Florida State. That is an indictment on his teammates and a credit to him. And that's what you're looking for today. Give me 6 or 7 dudes that play with their hair on fire, even if they're in the wrong place. That means I know their heart is in it. And if your heart is in it at 1-9 hosting FCS Charleston Southern, then you're the kind of guy I want around here for the next couple of years.
I know you had a chance, and we're going to play some of this audio and video. You had a chance, I think, to sit down with Dominic Robinson. Is that correct? And kind of go over some of what UNLV does since we have a candidate. They played last night. That was an okay showing. That wasn't, when a guy is on the radar for a lot of people for the first time, and UNLV's been a good story all year, the last 2 years. But for a lot of people, Marion just became a guy that they're beginning to check on because his name got mentioned. He's a rising star. There's connections to Mike Norvell in Florida State. The thought is that he's one of the leading candidates to be an OC that would be hired here. So I think last night might have been the first glimpse a lot of people got of UNLV, and it was an okay, 27 points, okay.
There were a lot of ACC football fans, and the reason I say that is because we don't have a Fox deal. Checking with, do I have FS1? Do I have FS1?
Do I have? Yeah.
So if they found the game last night, it was in a monsoon, so that's difficult. It's already a limiting factor. It was windy. It was
no doubt. I'm just saying, I'm picturing it last night in mass. A bunch of Florida State fans who'd never heard of Marion, have never watched UNLV, did last night, and they're like,
and what you're getting, despite all of that, right? The end of the first half was good. I watched every play of the first half.
Yeah, me too.
But what you're getting, if you watched it, independent of the weather, is an offensive line that's getting beat to the point of attack. You're getting bubble screens where receivers are just getting beat, and the blockers, are just getting beat. And so there's tackles behind the line of scrimmage. You got an awful pick six, and you're going, Jesus, okay, all right, I got you. But then they bounce back nicely with 2 drives at the end where you start to see some mixing, some matching, and the weird formations that are the go-go offense. Dominic has some interesting thoughts on this. He doesn't pull any punches, but of course it's raining last night was my thought. I was like, oh, of course it is.
No, I laughed about it too. I was like,
this is a vertical element in their offense that they're not going to be able to use.
That's right. But they did commit to the run, as people were pointing out in the chat. They did. And I love that there was an identity to what they were attempting to do. Obviously, some of it was dictated by weather, but yes, they ran the ball. They ran the hell out of the football. Well, let's cue it up and hear from Dominic.
Do you believe the hype about the go-go offense, and what have you learned about Brennan Marion in your last little while watching UNLV football?
I would say no. I don't believe the hype. Now, Coach Marion, I like a lot. I've actually known him, for a while. And then our paths have crossed a bunch when he was at Pitt. And then, most recently when he was at Texas. Have had some conversations with him. Great dude, very good football coach. There's a reason why he's getting the buzz that he's getting. He deserves it. and what he's doing at UNLV is off the charts. But in terms of what we're going to be hearing, if he is to be hired, whether either that's at Florida State or elsewhere, because I'm hearing a lot of buzz about him in a lot of places in terms of not only head coaching or OC jobs, but head coaching jobs also. So, he deserves it. He deserves the hype, but we're going to hear a lot about this go-go offense, this innovative go-go offense. Some of the things that he does, it is very interesting. It is very unique. He does have a real unique, creative look into offense and creating offense. He spent a lot of time in places with lower resources, less athletes. He's a high school coach by trade, to start. He was at William and Mary. I think that was when our pass first crossed. And so, he took a lot of jobs early on where the offenses were the worst offenses in the conference. And so you got to be creative. You got to do something new, especially if your players aren't very good. He was at Howard at some point. When he was at Howard, he had an offensive lineman that was 225 pounds. So you got to be real creative if your offensive line is 225 pounds.
God.
So yeah. And so, that's sort of the origin of the go-go, kind of comes from the idea that he really wanted to run the triple option, but he didn't want to eliminate some of the passing game element to it. And so you kind of get creative with your backfield alignments. And so it does create some, issues with the defense, and, forces them to be sound in terms of option football, which is why people run the option. Is it forces you to be disciplined for 4 quarters for, 60 to 70 to 80 snaps. But in terms of the actual go-go offense, it's you're going to hear a lot more buzz about it than substance that it actually has. Really, when you watch his offense, it's no different than any of the other spread offenses that you're seeing. It's just more of a 2-back flavor, and the backs are in unique alignments. And then there's a lot of times he uses like a split flow guy or a sniffer, what he calls a sniffer, or what a lot of teams call a sniffer back, which is more of a fullback, H-back, tight end who is doing fullbacky, old school fullback type stuff. One thing that I don't know if it fits really well with Coach Norvell is the dude loves gadgets. Loves gadgets. And again, this may just be because he has had less talent, and so he's had to do that. But you will see double passes, reverses, reverse double passes, reverse pass, double throwbacks. I mean, and one thing he says is like, I'm going to maximize the portfolio of all of my players. So he's going to tell you, like, if that guy was a high school quarterback, he's going to throw a pass in a game, and probably multiple. So there's a lot of gadget stuff. At one point, he was at William and Mary. They had 4 quarterbacks on the roster. It was his first year as OC. Nobody knew who the starting quarterback was. So on the first play of the game, all 4 quarterbacks were on the field.
Oh, jeez.
He played with all 4 quarterbacks. They ran a double reverse, and one of the quarterbacks threw a deep ball, deep post, and they completed his big explosive play to start the game, to start the season. I'm sure the kids love that. Everybody's excited. But, so I don't know if that really fits with. I hadn't seen Coach Norvell as a gimmicky gadget play type of guy, so do you bring him in, and does that spark some creativity after a losing season? Is Norvell saying, hey, I'm going to turn some of this loose that I usually am not good with, I'm not comfortable with? Those would be things that I think are sort of, remain to be seen. But a lot of quarterback runs, the offense, you're going to see a lot of quarterback runs. And so, maybe that's something that Coach Norvell wants to get to, because he felt like he was handcuffed with DJ this year. And or maybe he feels like just within his offense he's gotten stale, and, with quarterback run game. But I think Coach Marion is really good. The system, the go-go system, does lend itself very well for quarterback runs because of how fast they go, and everything has an RPO or a pass off of it. And so, those are things that, we will never really know for sure because we're not in the room, sort of what the intentions are.
Yep.
And sort of who's spearheading that movement, but it's going to be really interesting to watch. Yeah. So the main element of the go-go offense that will kind of jump out of the screen at people is, the 2-back alignment with both backs on the same side. And so now that's something that's, incredibly unique. You also have a potential to have 4 strong, or, in this case, it's 4 into the boundary. So this is the short side of the field. And so you have the potential to have 4 pass threats to this side. You can really overload this side, and it makes it really simple for the quarterback in terms of the read and the numbers. We've got 4 over here. If you don't have 4, then you're going to have a problem, with us running the ball over here. This play is just called zone bluff. The bluff is typically a guy who would be right here.
Mm-hmm.
And he would come around and he's going to bluff this guy. He's not going to block him. And that guy has to make a decision. Does he go chase the zone away, or does he play the quarterback? So that's, that all this is you just take a traditional job, a traditional H, and you put him right here, and you have him do the same job, just from a different spot, which makes the defense has to be more disciplined with their eyes, and it makes it harder in terms of preparation throughout the week because these guys are doing jobs that they in areas that they don't normally do. All right.
Is there any advantage to the alignment? It gets you a step closer, maybe 2 steps closer to that particular assignment, whatever you're trying to have the H-back carry out.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it does. That's also part of it. Is like, if you're going to do a job over here, now we can set you up where you do a job over here. You're in better position or alignment to do that. And at the same time, we are in better position to run a counter off of that, because now they're going to expect you to be over here because you're already over there.
Mm-hmm.
And now I can run my counter off of that, whatever that is, whether that's a pass or, whether that's actually making that a true triple option. And that guy sort of steps back and, becomes sort of a swing or pitch man. You can do different things with it. Okay. So here's another example of, something similar to, what I saw with Coach Norvell at Memphis was a split back set. And, the difference is he's got his hand down because this is like a true fullback, but that's a little bit different. But I saw a lot of split back stuff with Coach Norvell at Memphis, and we haven't seen it a bunch at Florida State. And this is just, again, this is a split zone. Okay, so this is an inside zone play. The traditional offense that we face, that all of us are facing now on Fridays and Saturdays, has that guy right here. So this guy is normally right here. The ball is snapped. He comes back and he seals the edge. We're going to block inside. That's why it's called inside zone. We're going to block the man on or inside. Every offensive lineman has their assignment is to block the man on or inside, and then the split flow guy is going to block the remaining end. They just put him in the backfield, gives him a little bit better head of steam in terms of getting downhill, and that's something that Coach Marion talks about, is like their runners getting downhill. He likes downhill runs. That's why he doesn't run counter or doesn't believe in counter. That's because exactly, it's not a downhill run.
is exactly the opposite of what Florida State does. You're talking about a lot of lateral to create vertical, but it looks like he's using vertical to create vertical.
Correct. Yeah, and that's from what I can see, that's a staple of something that Coach Marion believes in, and the concepts that he runs kind of tells me that.
I'll tell you what's interesting about all of that. Appreciate that video that you put together there, Tom, so that we could get a sense of who Coach Marion is from Dominic Robinson. I think most people who watch these kinds of videos or watch any sort of an overview of what a coach's theories are or scheme is or what they believe in will come back to the same point. The game has changed so much to where a lot of what you see in college is now run in the pros. It used to be for a very long time, Tom, that the gadgety offenses, as I used to describe them on the air, when we used to see the Wake Forests of the world, and I would talk about, at one time, those were kind of Mickey Mouse offenses. We would say, like, you don't see any of this in the pros. It doesn't translate. And then the pros decided to adapt a lot of those principles. You see now offenses that sometimes mirror the formerly known as gadgety offenses of college football. We see it all the time, or at least elements of it. But you know what I've learned in talking about all of these offenses and all of these defensive schemes and all of these coordinators is that, frankly, do you have good players? That's what it comes down to. If you're running a pro style or a spread or a run and gun or any of the offenses that we see run today, at the end of the day, do you have players? Do you have good players? Because whatever you're going to run are going to require an offensive line that gets blocks executed, players that make plays in space, and somebody to deliver the football. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about this no matter who's calling plays or what those plays under the umbrella of those plays, the scheme, you have good players. So I'm not as concerned about what he's running, whether I love it, hate it, somewhere in between. It doesn't matter to me anymore. I care more about, can you teach it? Can you get your players to execute it? And how well are you going to do on the recruiting trail? Does your name bring with it some cachet that resonates with recruits?
Yeah, the folks at Texas, again, from what I heard, they thought he was an okay recruiter, not in love with him. He wasn't like this ace recruiter that they were so hurt to lose when he took the job at UNLV. But what I will say, again, limiting factor at the time, people didn't know his name. So when he walked through the door, they're like, okay, and you are? Rather than at this point, he's becoming more of a household name, and certainly taking the job at Florida State helps you. But his reputation, if you're being considered for head coaching job or coordinator jobs at big-time power institutions, kids know who you are, and they want to play in an offense that seems to be fun. There are some elements last night that you saw that I absolutely love in this offense. Some of the triple option looks that they have with that go-go backfield, the run, go-go just means the two backs are on the same side of the quarterback, but they had go-go at a pistol, same thing with the shotgun, but some triple option looks where you've got split zone or inside zone as read option one, and then you have a speed option element to the outside. They picked up a third down conversion running that very play last night. It was a 3rd and 4 or 3rd and 3, where actually if he makes the pitch, who knows, it might be out the gate. Smart play by the quarterback to move the chains, though, in that situation. So there's some stuff where they isolate matchups and you think, that would be tough if you're a defense. Like, you've got a lot of crap to sort through. The thing I like about it, and that video will be released in its entirety tomorrow on the channel. It's about 30 minutes, so there's more questions I asked Dominic about philosophy, and he breaks down a couple more plays. But I said, do you see Mike Norvell in him? Do you see Sark in him? He said, honestly, I see Malzahn. I see more Malzahn in him than anything else, because Malzahn loves that inside zone stuff. He loves that the straight ahead, inside zone, get downhill. We run a lot more gap, a lot more counter. Although, I will say in the rain last night, they pulled guards an awful lot, did UNLV. But you can tell that there's a more north-south emphasis. That's one of the things that I was frustrated about this year. I know you were too. There are some moments in the Memphis game and the Cal game and even SMU to a degree.
Kind of lined up and run the ball down their throat. You're pushing people 5 yards off the line of scrimmage, and somehow we go away from it time and again. It's
we're running split zone and we're having success. Does it mean
Yeah.
you're always gaining 4? No, but it doesn't mean it means you're not losing 3. And once you
Tom, it was
establish that-
2nd and 6 or 2nd and 7, followed by 3rd and 2. Let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this sorry ass offense out here trying to score 13 points a game, and we're going to thumb our nose at 4 yards on first down? Get the hell out of here with that. We're not good enough. And that drives me nuts. I don't know what happened to Mike this year with that. He'd go away from it after he had overwhelming evidence that physically the only thing this offensive line could do is use their girth straight ahead.
Yeah, no hire is perfect without players. No hire is a surefire thing without players. The thing I do like about this hire, if it happens, is that this is a guy who at 37 years old, he's younger than me, ouch, has done more with less at a lot of places. And he understands that if I walk through the door and I don't have this, that, or the other, well, I can't pout about it and call my offense and then throw my hands up in the sky because we're not good enough to run my offense. I'm going to find a way to make it work.
That's not how it works, right? You got to do with what you got. Yeah.
And there are two sides to the coin of a resume that says, I'm leaving my job every year, every other year. Like one side is, do people not like him? I'm concerned.
Yeah.
The other side is, oh, you're ambitious as hell. So if you're needing somebody to come in here, if you as a fan out there say, I want somebody to be in the room, I know Ira wrote about this, that is willing to have an elevated conversation with Mike, as in our voices get louder about what needs to happen. This guy ain't coming here because he's arrived. He's coming here because he wants to go get the head man job that Mike has somewhere along the line in power football. He wants to be a head coach, and he wants to be a head coach soon. So you're not bringing in a yes man or a friend here of Mike Norvell if Marion takes the job. This is a highly ambitious person who's done more with less in multiple places and is going to want to impart his will. I think by definition, if he takes the job, you know he's going to get the keys to the offense. Why would he take the job to not call plays?
Before we wrap up, I'll remind everybody it's the holiday season, and you can trust our friends over at Manscaped, saving you a ton of money. If that's something you're interested in, perhaps somebody in your life needs to be interested in that, you can now get the Performance Package 5.0, which is nice, by the way. You get an all-in-one grooming kit, you get the lawn mower, you get the weed whacker, you get the aftercare for the boys downstairs. Yeah, all that aftercare is nice. Free gifts included. You get the performance package, as I said. It's all the grooming essentials, if you will. And if you do it right now, well, again, 11 million people worldwide have trusted Manscaped. And if you're a Warchant user, Jeff Cameron Show listener, whatever it might be, pregame show here, Warchant GameDay, use the code Warchant for 20% off free plus free shipping. You'll be happy that you did. Get 20% off free shipping with the code Warchant at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping. Use the promo code Warchant, manscaped.com for 20% off. So, Tom, today, at the end of the day, I will start by saying I want to see who's dressed, who's here playing football for Florida State. Weird thing to say going into a Saturday of football, penultimate game of the year, but yet that's where we're at. So let's see who's dressed. Obviously, if you've got guys that have played a lot of football for Florida State over the course of this year or even into last year, and they have eligibility left, and they're not dressed, then we know that's it. That's all. They're moving on to greener pastures, or so they think, and or it was a mutual decision, or perhaps Mike said, have a good one. Don't know, but we'll be watching closely, and obviously we've got guys there in the stadium, so we'll give you updates on that, warchant.com. You can certainly follow the threads or go to Twitter. We'll have it up and give you a heads up as to who's dressed, who's playing, who's not, who's out. And then from there, obviously, this is a chance to sadly double your win total today. Not that that means much, but it would be even more catastrophic if that's possible. If somehow Mike Norvell and this Florida State team didn't win this game, I think it would change the tenor of the conversation yet again, Tom. I think it would. I think whether we want to admit that or not, there's no, I mean, the kind of backlash to losing a game like this to a team like this, let's be honest, I think it's pretty devastating. It would maybe enter into another realm.
Absolutely it would. Look, this team, this Florida State team is susceptible to losing to the best of the FCS. You know, that's the truth of it. But the team you're playing today is the us of the FCS.
Yeah, they're all.
So, I mean, again, they're bottom 5 in their subdivision of football in offense. We're at the bottom 5 of ours. So, this is a game where if for some reason the Buccaneers score 20 points, 24 points, good Lord, that would be devastating. I do think this is a game where if you keep it simple and you lean on their defensive front, you're going to be able to run the ball at will. There are some times where you see a team that is like we were last year, like let's say an 8-9 win team this year in FBS plays a crew like Charleston Southern, and the score might be 52-17 or 52-10. They arrive at that score by the FBS team not caring. I think we can get to that number today by caring very much about what we do, but it's the age-old question about, do we give a damn? I would think if there have been signals, and we'll see in the pregame updates, of changes, of goodbyes and restructurings, we know that has happened at the coaching level. If the guys you have on the field want to be here, if the guys who are on the field want to be here and want to play today, you should be able to win this game by a handy, 30 points, 25, 30 points, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's one of those times. I know over the years we've had games like this where maybe Florida State is not at their best and you have a disgruntled fan base. Now, this is taking that to the nth degree, but we've been on the air in the weeks leading up to a game against a foe that is seriously outclassed, right? A team that is at a lower level. They're not a good team at that level. They don't recruit like players. So this isn't a case where they're a bad FBS team and you're kind of just like, well, they're still going to show up and they're going to play and they have some like athletes. They do not. This is not that. This is one of those, I'll say it's akin to a high school game where one team has an offensive and defensive line littered with kids that are probably going to go play somewhere in college, and the other is a small town team that doesn't have any of those things. And when you watch the offensive line go to the line of scrimmage to set up for the first play, you go, oh, no, that kid's 190 pounds playing right tackle. I've seen that. My kids in high school, I watch those kinds of games, and when it happens, it's over before it starts. That's what this should be. As hard as that is to believe, because we've seen how bad we are, that's what this should be. That's what this is akin to. So, don't be surprised if Florida State, as bad as they are, win this game big, big, big today. And then, but it doesn't mean anything other than you took care of your business on a Saturday afternoon for the first time and maybe since Cal.
Yeah. Again, like you said, just expect to be interested in the pregame about, who's dressed, who's with first teams and second teams. The best way to put it is to stay tuned to Warchant for that information over the next few hours. And I'm sure some of it will be known as we're hanging out in beautiful weather on the top level of Hotel Indigo.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, we're going to be there from 11 to 1. If you guys are moseying about over by the stadium, feel free to swing by. As always, should be a good time. Beautiful weather, talking football, watching football, having a few cold pops and some delicious register sausage. I mean, who doesn't want to do that even in the midst of a bad season, Tom? I mean, I think everybody would like to do that. So we'll see you over there at 11 o'clock today. For Tom Lang, good job, Ben. I'm Jeff. You guys be well. Go Noles. We'll talk to you soon.